Hey guys, this is Ada. I'm coming in to do a video, and as a few of you know who watch my videos, I talk about supplements, I talk about spirituality, and I also talk about health. And that's why my channel is called Holistic Healing because I am interested in a holistic approach when it comes to healing. So that is, just what I do. Um, if any of you have watched some of the earlier videos, you know that I am a mental health counselor. I've worked as a therapist, and when I talk about relationships or healing, mental health, or any of that, I'm talking about it from sometimes a professional perspective. And being a Christian, I talk about it from a Christian perspective. So for those of you who feel like, this channel is helpful, please encourage others to come in and um, share with others what we're doing, what I'm doing over here on this channel. Well, with that being said, guys, tonight I want to talk about toxic relationships. And I just want to be very transparent um, when I talk about these relationships. Um, I grew up in a home where there was very dysfunction, and I've had my share of toxic relationships, but I didn't understand what toxicity mean. I didn't understand how I was contributing to connecting with toxic people. Well, when there's a lack of awareness, sometimes it can be very detrimental to our mental health. So, what I want to talk about tonight, how do you identify a toxic relationship? What are the signs and symptoms of a toxic person? Well, without further ado, I'm gonna get into the video, and we're gonna talk about these traits that you find in toxic people. And sometimes, to be honest with you guys, we ourselves can be toxic to ourselves by allowing certain things and certain people into our life, and there's a lack of boundaries. So most people that's in a toxic relationship, those are relationships without boundaries. This one person doesn't know where he start or she start and where that you in. They cross all kinds of boundaries, and they don't know that it's not okay because maybe they grew up in a situation where their boundaries was constantly violated. So if you weren't respected in your family of origin, you go on to be disrespectful to others. So some of the traits of a toxic relationship is there's a lack of respect. First of all, there's a lack of respect for you and your boundaries or what you stand for. There is no regard for your opinion, or there's just very little respect in the relationship, period. There's just no respect. So that's how you know the first sign and symptom of a toxic relationship. The next trait is being blamed. A person not taking responsibility for their action, and maybe they're blaming you. Some people blame the victim for abuse. And a lot of times in a toxic relationship, you will find the perpetrator blaming the victim for them orchestrating the abuse. They'll tell the victim, "Oh, well, it's your fault. If you wouldn't have did this, that, and the other, I wouldn't have did that." Well, that is very toxic. Okay, being controlled. Some ways in which people who are toxic control relationships is they isolate the victim. Um, they keep tabs on where the victim go, and I'm not saying not for safety reasons, just to be in control. They may control the money. They may control the finances. They may control your control who you befriend. They may control many different areas of your life. That is a sign of toxicity. Okay, being gaslighted. They may do little stuff to poke at you, to gaslight you, to keep you frustrated. to keep you um, in a state of chaos or in a state of anxiety. So the perpetrator may do a lot of gaslighting. Okay, what other things? Being disrespectful toward you. They may show signs of just being very disrespectful, um, thinking that they may have a mentality that they own you. They're very possessive. And with that, they're very disrespectful. The person may, if you're in a relationship, an intimate relationship with this person, they may disrespect you by being with other people without your knowledge. If it's not an open relationship, some people have those. I personally don't um, agree with, well, it's not for me, but I know some people have open relationships, but that's not what I'm talking about. Maybe cheating, serial cheating, that's just gross disrespect. um lying, constantly lying when clearly you know that they're lying. No admission of the truth, never taking responsibility for their action. All that is toxicity. Okay. Being resentful and holding grudges, maybe giving you the silent treatment for little things. Uh, Being very resentful, maybe blaming you for stuff that they should be taking responsibility for. Just not doing their part in the relationship, allowing you to carry the relationship and not, taking responsibility as an adult for their part in the relationship. Fault finding, constantly finding fault with you, constantly belittling you, constantly just making you feel that you're not valuable, just contributing to a lot to lower self-worth. You may feel a lot of shame. You may feel like you can't leave the relationship. This is the only person that's going to want you. There's so many different aspects of dealing with a toxic person. And some of these people may be narcissists, right? Okay. They blame you for everything. There's a lack of trust. You don't feel like you can trust the person. They don't trust you. And you have valid reason for not trusting them because they prove they are not trustworthy. They may not have a valid reason for mistrusting you other than to try and gaslight you. If you accuse or if you try to talk to them about a behavior that is antisocial, they may turn the tables or they may turn it on you. So it become a very chaotic situation. So these relationships are toxic. And I feel like the Bible has a lot to say about toxic relationship. In James 3:16, it talks about selfish ambition. And God did not design relationships to be one-sided. When people are in a relationship, especially intimate relationships or any other relationships, there have to be a mutual understanding, mutual respect, mutual submission. It's never to be one-sided. And if the relationship seems one-sided, then most likely it's toxic. Another thing that that's very common in these relationships may be passive aggressive behavior. The person that's passive aggressive, something's wrong, but they may not tell you directly how you have what you've done and the exact nature. It may be they may get you back, that type of stuff, and then you don't even know what you have done for them to get you back. So that's passive aggressive behavior. Okay. And a lot of times in these relationships, there is a lack of stability. There's a lack of personal worth because a lot of time the perpetrator may have such low self-esteem that they make you a target of their hatred and their bitterness. And if you don't understand that you're not the problem, they're the problem. I mean, of course, we all have our own issues, but if they make you exclusively the problem, then that is very toxic because it takes two to have a relationship. Um, and sometimes the reason these people are toxic, it maybe they grew up in a traumatic situation as a childhood. Maybe there's a lack of awareness. Maybe their family doesn't acknowledge mental illness, and maybe there's a breakdown mentally that need to be addressed. So, with all that being said, what do you do? Um, my thing is always to seek wise counsel. As a Christian, pray, seek wise counsel, seek in a relationship be reconciled, see if the person is willing to get help for themselves, because they may have to, get help for themselves before you go as a couple to a therapist. They may need individual therapy. You may need individual therapy for dealing with that toxic person, because when we deal with toxic people, it have a tendency to change the way we see ourselves. So you may find that you may have to get your individual therapy. Sometimes these relationships can be reconciled, sometimes they can't. And so what's the answer? Well, if you are a Christian, I would approach it prayerfully, because I don't really feel, or I don't believe that the Lord wants you in a relationship where you're suffering constantly. I feel like it's too much information and resources out here now for us to have that we have access to. So gathering information, seeking wise counsel, um, getting individual therapy. You don't have any control over whether that person chooses to go to therapy or not. But if they're not willing to get therapy, I mean, that is your answer. That may be your answer about, can this relationship be reconciled? If you get the help that you need through individual counseling, that person is not willing to get help or willing to change, then that is your answer. Um, so guys, what if the relationship is abusive, physically abusive? Well, what I would encourage is to get to safety. Get to go where you're physically safe. You may have to go in one of these facilities where they won't allow the abuser to know where you're at. You may have to go and hide it, because today so many women are being killed or maimed, and the children are being maimed because of these toxic, narcissistic, abusive people. And a lot of times they have been damaged as children, so they may lack awareness to the extent of their mental illness. So that's why you may have to go in a facility where you will be safe, because the first of all, physical safety. And if it's emotional abuse, then that may give you a time to talk if the perpetrator is willing, if it's a marriage situation where there's children, and see if they're willing to get the help. Wise counsel through a pastor, wise counsel through therapists, because the Bible said there's safety in a multitude of counselors. But for God's sake, don't allow it to continue to go on where you're feeling like you're helpless, and you're feeling like, that you're a victim to all this. And you are, in a sense, you are being victimized. You're not a victim. So, take measures to get help. Don't stay in a situation where that is damaging to your health. And stress is very damaging to your health. And if the person is physically abusive, you need to get to safety. Get to safety, because right now, a lot of times when family members try to rescue these young women, a lot of times they are killed as well. So be wise in how you're going to leave that situation. And there are places in different states where there's safety for a woman and her children. I don't know if there's any men's shelter, because I know sometimes men are abused. I don't want to not acknowledge that there are men who are abused and need to get to safety as well. So guys, with that being said, if this video has been helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll be coming back in discussing toxic relationships and trauma bonds, and what we need to do in order to heal. And for the people out, the people out there that are the perpetrators, I would advise you to get help, because maybe it's something you grew up in. Maybe it's normal to, all these traits are normal to you, and you don't realize that it's harmful to other people. Get help. There are therapists available that you can talk to. You won't be judged. um, they can't ethically tell what you have discussed with them. So get help. Don't let these patterns continue. You don't have to live in misery with yourself. You don't have to live like that. And sometimes the pain is so deep, even with the perpetrators, they want to inflict it on others. But there's help available. So guys, thank you for watching. Have a blessed night. And my name is Ada with Holistic Healing. Thank you so much.